Hey guys, I'm going to be doing another little bit of a tutorial here like I did the other week. This time it's going to be on something I actually wanted to show in the last stream about making animated overlays for fighting game streams and such, but I got hung up because I kind of forgot an important part that I needed to show how to do this, and I'd since figured out where it is, so I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of revisit it and show how to do it. And that is how to set up StreamControl in order to feed values into your HTML files when you want to add fields that don't come stock in it. So I'll show you how to customize the XML file that creates the layout to add the fields that you need and what the different types of fields and such are. So first, you're going to need to go to Farp's Noodle Hut, also farpnut.net, Farpnut.net. Farp is the creator of StreamControl. He also works with XSplit, and he spent some time directing the Team Spooky channel at Combo Breaker this past weekend. So I got to hang out with him a bit. Pretty cool guy, makes a bunch of really cool stuff. So first off, let's go to, let me just open that new tab for now. We'll go to StreamControl, and for most purposes, you want to go ahead and be using the version 0.4 beta. It is a beta, but it does have a bunch of parts that are a lot nicer than the old version. So let's just put this in our little test overlay. I made a folder here for SC, for StreamControl, so we're going to save that there. And what I forgot last time is that the beta doesn't actually come with a layout.xml file for you to customize. In order to get that, you want to go ahead and download the current version, which is 0.3. So you can click that link there. We will grab that real quick. Right. And then also on his page, the tab that I opened up in the background is the layout documentation, which is just kind of a handy reference of what the different types of layout fields are, what they do, and how to edit them. So let's go ahead and open these up. It's crazy, Bifu. One day. I think one day you'll be able to do this too, if you check out these tutorials. So, StreamControl EXE, it's going to prompt you at first to configure it. It's going to have you go ahead and put in the configuration a input and an output path. So your output, you want to just go ahead and make sure you have the relative path checked so it keeps it in this folder. And your layout, you just go ahead and pick layout.xml. Make sure relative path is still checked. That way it's always looking in the same folder that it's in, or to whichever folder relative to where the StreamControl.exe application is sitting. This makes it so you can move your overlay package between computers much easier. It can output into either XML, JSON, or both. Usually we use JSON. I do both just to have it there, but the one you really need there is the JSON. So we're going to do this. I'm going to refresh it, and now it is using the layout.xml that we had here. So let's go ahead, just hit save. This should generate a StreamControl.json and a StreamControl.xml. And we're going to throw this in Notepad++ real quick so you can see the different fields that it's giving us. So we have title 1, title 2, mtext 1, 2, 3, 4, pname 1, pname 2, score 1 and 2, rounds, and timestamp. And the timestamp is going to be the Unix timestamp of when you last hit save. And as you can see, that corresponds to these fields here, mtext 1, 2, 3, 4, title 1 and 2, and all that. So the question is, what if we want something to show up on our overlay that isn't here in StreamControl? And that's what I wanted to show last time. So let's have a look at the code generating this layout. You do need to know some XML for this. XML is, I don't know a lot of programming, and what I do know for the most part I've learned very recently, but I will say that XML is probably the easiest thing you can learn. All right. So you can see here, a couple things off the bat. The main layout tab, the width is set to 400, the height is set to 140. Now we want to go ahead and add some spots for the commentator Twitters here. So we're going to need a little bit more room than that. So let's just, give ourselves a bit of room to work with. It's at 140 now. Go ahead and maybe add like another 80. See how 220 looks. So we're going to edit that, save it, hit refresh on StreamControl, and boom, look at all that space we have down here. So you'll also see this tabbed thing here. If this is set to 0, you won't be able to have these different tabs. You'll have to kind of put everything on one layout. I don't honestly know what the purpose of not having this set to 1 is, but you want to make sure that it is. And then from there, you can use the tab tag to open and close, tab to separate these off, and you just need to name the tab in there. I believe you can also set the width and height of a container within the tab, though I don't use that often. So up first, we can see label. Label is a type of component here. It's an element of the layout. You can see that corresponds here to player 1. So let's see what happens if we change that, hit save, and refresh that. You can see where that shows up there. Oops. Okay. Change that back. So this rounds thing here, it's not really something that I use, so if we want to see how it affects when we take something out. Now note, we just took out the label. The label is not the actual data field. Our data fields, we have a few different types. There's line edit. Note that when you're typing the name or of the type of a data field here, that it starts with a lowercase and then the second word is uppercased, and it's always going to follow that format. So line and then uppercase E edit. A line edit is this. It's just an open text box where you can put it in. You can see here the ID is pname1, and then these are just the dimensions. So see what happens if we save that there and then have another look at our StreamControl.json. So now you can see in pname1 is the value that we just saved. Give me my StreamControl back. There we go. Got my desktop a little messy here. All right. So back to what we want to do. We also want to get rid of the round spin box. Now a spin box is somewhere where you can either type a number or increase or decrease the number. You can see here you set a maximum. For most streams you can set it to 99. You shouldn't ever really need to go higher than that. Well, I don't know. If you're doing a first 100 or 200 or something fun at somebody's house, sure, whatever. So we want to go ahead and take the one for the rounds out. There you go. There's also buttons in StreamControl, and there's a few different types. So there's a reset button. A reset button is going to clear values from another field. So here you set the type to reset. You set the X and Y location. So note that there's X and Y and width and height. X and Y is going to set where the button actually shows up. So you can see we set a Y value to 100 instead of 40, it moves it down. So you do have to manually place every single element that you're putting in this. You can set a tooltip here, which is what's going to show up when you hover over the button. You see that is this value right here. And then you set an ID. Specifically on reset buttons and swap buttons, this is actually really important. If you're going to have more than one type of reset button in order to clear values, you need to make sure and give everyone an individual ID, because if you use the same ID twice on more than one button, it's not going to work properly. So we're going to add a clear button to the commentator names while we're there. So let's just change this to reset 1 so that later on down the road we can name our other button reset 2. And you can see here the reset clears these two things. It resets the scores. So if we set these here, we hit reset, that particularly is aimed at IDs pscore1 and pscore2. And you do need to set this target always with these buttons using the reset equals here. And then within the tags here, this is where you set the name of the button, the text that actually shows up on top of the button. So you can see that'll change here. So a swap button, pretty similar in terms of how you set it up, except instead of setting one target the way you would with the reset, you actually set multiple targets. So you have swap set 1 and swap set 2. And what that's going to do is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to take these fields in the swap set, and it's going to change places with the ones in the other swap set. So it's going to take player P1 or pname 1 and pscore 1 and swap them with 2. All right. So you can see on our second tab here, our commentary, there's not as much going on this. They start off by default with a really basic. All there is just this title 1, title 2, and it gives you the spots to put the names. So let's go ahead and add a couple things. First, I want to add a field for the Twitter for each commentator. Now you have this super, super long field to type all this stuff. Hopefully no commentator's name is ever that long. So let's change a couple things. First, I want to change the label to commentator 1. Oops. And you see here, our label doesn't actually have enough space to fit the word commentator 1. Plus, this field is kind of overlapping it, so we'll have to change that layout just a little bit. So let's first shorten up the width of the line edits. And then we took about 80 off, so let's just move those over a bit. Just off to the side so it'll be kind of in a placeholder spot. There you go. Now look at all that room we have. But you can see here, it still gets cut off because the width of our label field is not enough to contain it. So usually I just kind of add a little bit at a time until I got enough. There we go. That might have even been too much. We can probably trim that down a little. There you go. See, the 1 got cut off, so that was kind of our line there from 80 down to 70. Pick somewhere in between. There we go. Okay. So let's move our boxes here back over a bit. And this is generally how I do things. Just 10 pixels at a time until you find something that looks the way you want. All right. Let's bring that width down by a good amount. There we go. All right. So now let's go ahead and make a spot for our Twitter. So we're going to need a couple more labels. Looks like our box here has a width of 100 and it starts at 90 on the x-axis, so it'll end at 190-ish. Give it a little bit of space, maybe like 10 pixels. So let's go ahead and just start that at 200. Oh, doing too much other types of programming. We're trying to put CSS tags. All right. Oh my goodness, my typing. Here we go. There we go. Got Twitter one there. Just go ahead and do this same thing. The next row down is 30 below, so just change that to match there, 44. Okay. Now we need a couple line edit boxes so we can actually type that in. So same thing, figure out how far over it needs to go. There's a width of 66, starts at 200, so we'll say 276. We need to change the ID. Okay. All right, so you can see we have, oh wait, that'll probably do that. Got a room to move those back over. There we go. That looks fine for now. We'll add a couple buttons. Let's add a button to clear all this. So our type is going to be a reset. Our ID. Again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to reuse IDs with reset buttons and swap buttons. So we're going to name that reset 2. We'll put that there. Oh yeah, forgot to give that a Y value. And before I forget, we also need to give it a reset target. So our targets, you name them by ID, so we want to reset all of these 4. So we're going to have .1, C .2, C Twitter 1, and C Twitter 2. Oh yeah. Let's actually call that clear. You'll see the difference between a clear, usually when you name clear and a reset. A lot of times when people are making their layouts, the button they call reset is just going to reset the scores back to 0 without actually clearing out the names. But the actual button works the same. So let's see if we have a button here now. There we go. And see if it works. Put something in each of these fields. There you go. So we need one more button. We want to go ahead and be able to quickly swap commentator 1 and commentator 2 in case they sit down in a spot that you don't expect. So our type is going to be a swap. And I'm using a width and a height of 20 for these buttons just to do them quickly. In my personal layouts, I would actually make the buttons probably a little bit bigger than that, only because when you're in the middle of a stream and you're trying to update this information quickly, to have a slightly bigger target to click on, because I'm not a nerd, I don't play RPS games, I don't have that type of mouse execution. So give yourself a little bit better of a target to kind of aim for so you don't miss it. And then you think you hit it, and then you go into the scene and you realize you didn't update your scores or your names. Everyone makes fun of you. That's how this stuff works. So we have our button there. We need to set our swap sets to tell it what our targets are. So swap set 1 is going to be the commentator 1. So it'll be C title 1 and C Twitter 1. And our swap set 2 is going to be C title 2 and C Twitter 2. Let's see if this one worked. Oh, there you go. Gave me an error. Everything blew up because I forgot to set an ID. And again, we already have an ID of swap 1 for the swap button on the players tab, on the match info tab. So we'll go ahead and give this an ID of swap 2. Let's try that again. There we go. Let's see if this works. There you go. So you have a clear and you have a swap. Oh, if you use keyboard navigation, if you tab and shift tab to move between fields, note that the order in which things tab through on StreamControl is based on the order that you have them here in the XML. So let's say you want to do, commentator 1, press tab, be able to type Twitter 1 in order, and then move on to 2. We'll go ahead and pick up our C Twitter line of code here. Dump that there. And then put our C Twitter 2 under commentator 2. Let's reset that. I totally lied. That didn't work at all. What did I do? I was like super sure that's how that worked because I think I did that before. Blow-ups. Oh, I put it under the labels. That's why. Duh. I'm just blind. Don't mind me. Let's try that again. Let's actually put our line edits together and not be dummies. How about that? Oh yeah, Beefo, sorry, I didn't see that question. So I'll cover the data sets here, and you know what, I'll go ahead and do that right now. So a data set is when you tell one of your line edits, and not just your line edits, you can actually do this on drop-down boxes and things, to ask them to fill out, to have an autofill option where you have a preset list of names. This is really handy for big tournaments where you can just export the list of entrants from Smash GG and whatnot, and then put that into a CSV file and point your field at that, and it'll auto-complete it. So you are going to need some way to update a CSV file. I think you can do it on OpenOffice or Google Sheets. Or of course Excel. So let's go ahead and first let's just make a quick CSV. So we're going to have commentator, we're going to have their Twitter handle. What? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and Save this in that same folder. Why are there like more than one version of the CSV here? That's weird. There we go. You want that one. Comma delimited. This is going to be our commentators. We'll just give it a simple name. Comms.csv. Alright. So using our data set, first we'll do it on the names. So we do data set, point it at our CSV file that we just made. See if that worked. There we go. Now we have for whatever reason that one didn't work. Let me open that spreadsheet back up and find out why. Where are we? Good Lord, sorry. My brain shut down for a second. Okay. What? It's not even there. Why am I being a dummy? Alright. Okay. I'm just gonna hit all the wrong buttons. We'll deal with this in a minute. Alright, I swear I know how to use Excel. Let's try that again. Alright, so yeah, we have all of our things to choose from. We'll go ahead and put in Twitter. Save that, close that, don't save that, open it back up. Yep. Oh, because we didn't aim the Twitter at the data set yet, it's not going to write to there. So if we want to use more than one field tied to it, we're going to need to add a couple more things. Want to say data field? Is the command to tell it where to point what you're actually saving. I might have to look that one up. I might actually be wrong. Sorry. Good, my brain. If this blows up, it's not called data field, and I'll pull up one of my other layout XMLs and remember what it's called. Let's try this though. All right. There you go. Now you can see here though, it made two separate entries. So there is actually a way that we can tie these together. And I believe that command is called master. So the master of Twitter 1 will be ctitle1. And the master of Twitter 2 will be ctitle2. I think that's what it's called. Let's give that a shot. All right. So let's save these. See if that worked. Doesn't seem like it did. Let me just pull over one of my other layouts here to remember what that guy is called. no, it is called master. Wonder why that one wasn't working. This might crash the stream control. Let's see. Nope, seems like it works. There we go. All right, now we've tied these two together. Now the really nice thing about tying together a field to another field as its master is you only then have to autocomplete one field. So this should let us do this. You pick commentator 1 from the dropdown, you hit enter, you click on it, and it automatically populates everything that you set as having that as their master field. So there you go. Let's try that again. I think if you have the CSV open when you go to save it, it might cause some janky stuff. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So that's how that works. You can do that with a bunch of things. So you can create a separate team and player field, and how I mentioned, if you want to export from smash.gg and whatnot, that's super handy because you can tie a player's team and their country from the smash.gg export, and then you just got to click on their name and it'll auto-populate that for you as long as you set player, the player name 1 as being the master field. So now let's go ahead and have a look at our StreamControl.json. And you see here, here's the ID of the field that we added. Here's the value that's in there. So that's the short way of adding things to your stream control. So there's a bunch of different types of things you can add. Let's go ahead and have a look at Farp's layout documentation to see what else there is. So we already went over the really basic stuff, the label, the line edit, the spin box, which is what the scores are. So checkbox. So this is kind of handy for certain things. I've used this in layouts before where sometimes I didn't want to show my logo at the bottom of the screen. Let's say under night, really good example. You always have, right smack in the middle bottom of the screen, you have your logo, but what about grid meter? You don't want to cover that up. So how I got around that was I would make a checkbox on the front tab. So I'm going to put a label over here. And again, starts with a lowercase when it's a 2-word thing for the tag. So it's check and then capital box. I don't think you actually have to set a width and a height for a checkbox. I think it's just one size. So let's try that. Make sure to give it an ID. Oh, no, you do. All right, take that back. I thought it always came out the same width and height, but it looks like you need to set it. I know there's a minimum. I know that you can't make, like, even if you set it to 1 or whatever, it's going to be a certain size. There we go. All right, so we have a checkbox. Go ahead and check it. Now, if we check our StreamControl.json, it should set the ID of logo to 1. Uncheck it, and it'll change it to 0. So that's how you can get around some sort of optional things where, let's say you want to show your logo or, you know, maybe an image that's being cameras are masked to or something, but you kind of want to toggle it on and off. If you want to do that through Stream Control, what you can do is set the logo, or rather set the checkbox, and then use that as a value that you change and tell your HTML to pick up on whether that's a 1 or a 0 and take an action based on that. There's also a radio group. Radio group is something I never really use. I'm sure there could be some purposes for it. I'm not really going to go over it because it's not just something I've ever had a purpose for. But radio buttons, if you can't tell by looking at the picture, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically giving you a list of preset options, and you choose based on that. Buttons we already went over. You can see the 2 types of buttons here, reset or swap. Tab set is basically putting a tab within a tab. So let's say, where'd my notepad go? Here we go. Just going to add kind of a sample thing. You obviously want to make your width and your height, actually I take that back. If you make your width and your height of your tab set more than the width and your height of your main layout here, it'll actually add a scroll bar. Oh, forgot to close my tab tag. There we go. So you can make more tabs within a tab set. And so that's how you have your tabs within tabs. I'll show an example of a usage of that and what I use for our weeklies and monthlies. I use that for our brackets. So I made some spots to put in tabs within our tab so I can fill out a winner's bracket, a loser's bracket. I have a reset button for each. I use a couple checkboxes here. This was actually, I started using the checkboxes so that an animation will play when the checkbox is unchecked, so when I first add a name when somebody's moving on in the bracket, it'll play a little nice animation on the text, but it won't do it if I check the box because the name's already been there. So that kind of shows an example how you can mix and match these things within a tab set. And I think the last one, oh, you know what? I honestly have not messed with the tweet widget myself, how to pull a tweet from StreamControl. So that one I'm not going to go over just because I honestly have no idea how to use it yet. I have not spent any time on it. It looks pretty self-explanatory in terms of having a spot to fetch it, but what I do not know is how to work that into your HTML overlay. And then a combo box is one of the newer things. It's the last one. This is actually a drop-down box. And you can see there's an option to make it editable. Holy crap, editable. So let's just put this inside our tab set since we have it there already and put it as an example. So combo box. Oh, let's give that a name actually. Wait, no, I don't want to give it a name. I'll show something else in a second though. All right. See here, we have a drop-down box, but there's nothing in it yet. So we can either, I have an idea that when I make this editable to 1, it's probably going to want a data set target, which we don't have. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, so there's not really any target, but this will at least put what we enter in that ID. You can see here. So let's make something to give it some targets real quick. Go ahead and take the editable off being 1, because really the entire purpose of the combo box is to have a preset list instead, because otherwise you could just use a line edit and put a data set in there if you just want to be able to pick from the list without having a drop down, but you still want it editable. So I'm going to make that not something we can edit. There we go. Let's give some data for that though. Open Excel back up. Alright, what did I goof up here? Oh, I don't think I saved it. There we go. So now we have a drop-down box based on our data set. Here you go. See that it picked up the thing from the list. So what I would use this for is, you know, maybe different games if you want to put the game somewhere, or it's useful as I actually like the idea of using the combo box where you would put the round. It's something I've actually been meaning to do over the last couple of weeks. So let's have a look here. This is where an edit box actually might be handy, but where's my SE folder? Okay, so you have your spot here to put what round it is, grand finals, winners finals, top 8, blah, blah, blah. I like the idea of using a combo box for this because it eliminates typos. Those words are going to be, you know, a pretty finite list of things. It's going to be a top 8, a top 16, grand finals, winners finals, losers finals. If you make that a combo box, that just is one less thing that you need to type in by hand. You don't have to worry about spelling it wrong. In general, though, using data sets is probably your best protection against that. Like Fifth Dimension said earlier, you know, that's one of the big upsides of pulling your list directly from smash.gg, or if you're using something else, just typing out the Excel sheet by hand. And then during the event, you don't actually have to worry about spelling things correctly or incorrectly. So that's about it. This is actually pretty easy. Again, I would have showed it on the last stream. I just forgot where to get the original layout.xml. I didn't realize that it only came packaged with the actual current version. So again, you want to download version 0.4 in order to use the nice beta version. But you also want to download the current version 0.3, and just in that little zip file, grab out the what's it called? The layout.xml file, since that's what you'll be editing. And there's one more thing that I'm forgetting on the layout documentation. It's this guy that you see up here in the top. There is maybe it's not in there. You'll notice actually though, when I changed from the layout to the old layout, it actually wasn't in there. I think this might be something specific to the beta. I don't really remember. I don't personally use that box. I just forget what it's called. I would show you how to edit it, but I don't really know off the top of my head what it's called. You know what, actually, I think I do know where to find it though. Okay. Oh, put it in the wrong thing. Toolbar, that's what it's called. Thank you. So, oh yeah, and this shows an example that you can actually set within a combo box. You don't have to do it from a data set. You can actually set a combo item manually. So we can get rid of this, and then within the combo box tags, set a combo item. There you go. Everything you have shows up there. So you can set that manually ahead of time if you know what it's going to be specifically, or you can make it a data set. So that's about it. If you guys got any questions or anything, I can go over that. Otherwise, I'll have this up on YouTube pretty shortly with, of course, links to where to get StreamControl. And I'll probably have something I kind of want to show a little bit later when I have more time, probably after I move, which is going to be in a couple weeks. I want to show how to make the player cards that I did. Where are you? So this will be something that I probably show on the next stream, how I made this kind of thing. So, but that's about all I got for today. So I'll check you guys later. Again, we have Mix Up Monthly coming on Saturday. If you're in the area, come by, Ignite. Ignite Gaming Lounge, 3341 North Elston. You can play some Street Fighter V or Injustice. But that's all I got for today. So I will see you guys next time.
I'm not going home.